Coaching calls. Here with us today, as always, we have Matt and Deneen. Matt and Deneen, thanks so much for being here.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Happy
And Matt,
Thursday.
happy Thursday. Matt, as you know, is the founder of Needle Marketing, and Deneen is our glorious community manager, and she's been doing a great job. Today, we're talking about referral programs. This will probably be the last topic in the category of growing admissions before we move on. And we think the next category is going to center around managerial procedures, like technologies to use, tools that we recommend, things like that. But for now, we're still on growing admissions, and we're going to talk about referral programs, which is one of Matt's favorite topics. So let's dive right into it. Matt, if you don't mind, talk to us about why referral programs are so important for a Montessori school.
The primary reason is that word of mouth is still the most effective marketing out there. And whatever I can do to stimulate that process is a good thing. Now, you can do things that are for free. You can ask them to refer to other parents. That's something that is effective, actually, right? You just remind people that, hey, we rely on your referrals um, to grow our school. That said, I do think that having an official program in place that has some rewards available for people who are participating in this program actually does move the needle a lot. And again, those are great families to bring in too, because they're already indoctrinated in a way. They already have friends that have been successful in the program. They're basically vetted before, in many ways, before they actually come and apply. So it's a win-win for the parent. It's a win-win for the school.
Yeah, absolutely. And just out of curiosity, what percentage of your new admissions do you think come from referrals?
I would say right now it's about 25 to 25%, maybe a quarter of people come
Oh, that's
from.
really significant.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and that could be a variety of things. I mean, lots of times it's really hard to track exactly if they were a referral or if they heard from us from driving by or whatever, because it's like, they'll mark down on their application, heard of you from driving by and from I have a friend, so it's like it's not as detailed as I'd like the data to be, but I do know that it is a significant amount of people that come in our referrals.
And as far as tracking that is concerned, when somebody makes a referral, is it incumbent upon them to tell you, hey, I sent Matt your way, or does that come through like the application process? Like, what's the best way for you to track those?
The best way would be, quite honestly, to be able to manage that technologically through a CRM, and to have each parent have a link that they could basically forward to parents, other parents, and when they come into our ecosystem, they're already tagged as a referral. We don't have that set up yet. That's something that I'd love to do in the future. Right now, we basically have a space on our application that says, were you referred by somebody to this school? If
Mm.
they mark that yes, and then the box pops up, um, it says who was that person. So that basically allows us to go back and check when we get applications. Oh, somebody referred. We need to put them into that referral system to give that person the reward.
Very cool. And right now, what are you using as the reward? What works best?
Right now, we have a $250 tuition credit that is applied after the new family has been here for a 3-month period. So this is not something that is immediate with, hey, you put in an application, they get the referral. I really want to make sure, number one, that the family starts, because sometimes people put in applications and then don't follow up with that, or move away, or don't start. So that's number one. Also, sometimes you start families and it's very clear immediately, this doesn't happen a lot, but it happens, where this isn't going to be a good fit for school and family. So that's not a positive referral either.
Hmm.
So the referral program is basically after the new family's been here for 3 months, on the beginning of that fourth month, after that 3-month period, the referring family gets a $250 tuition credit.
And that's a significant amount of money. You know, that's not a token by any means.
It is, and the struggle is trying to figure out what is the most effective number, that it's not $1,000, it's not $100, but what moves the needle, right? And every day of the week, I'd be happy to pay $250 for a new family to come in, because when you think about it, that family is going to be here, especially if the child starts in the NIDO program. They're going to be here for a minimum of 4 to 5 years, preferably 10 years. they're going to pay $150,000 over the lifespan of this relationship potentially. That is a very easy choice to pay $250 to get a relationship like that.
Sure. Well, when you and I first started talking about your marketing, I remember that we thought your cost per acquisition on a new family was anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500. Did I make that up, or is that about accurate?
I don't remember the specifics of that conversation. And quite honestly, when we started, I had so much to learn about that data side of it that I don't necessarily know what the number was. I do know that it's more than $250 for sure.
Well, that's the point I was trying to make. Is it actually, even though $250 sounds like a lot of money, you're well, you're saving money over traditional marketing methods, digital marketing methods. I mean, it actually ends up being much cheaper.
Correct. It does.
And then as far as the students, the families being more mission appropriate, I'd love to get Denine's input here. As a guide, did you notice a difference between folks that came in, cold, quote unquote, and referring families? Were they easier to work with, more appropriate? Did they integrate better, or was there really not difference at all? And I'm just kind of digging.
No, I think I had a lot of families that knew each other for 6-7 years before coming into my classroom. So they worked really well together. They helped build a really strong parent foundation. They were great for going out. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to be said. Who you hang out with typically are the people like you. And so referrals are amazing because you're most likely going to get families that are similar to the families you already have. And I saw that in my lower L class.
And why do you think people referred? Are they referring the school? Are they referring the classroom? Are they just referring because their kid goes there too and they want their buddies to be close to them? Like, what was the catalyst that you saw more often than not?
Awesome. The Montessori is awesome. So like when you really feel it and you see it, I mean, you see your 3-year-old transform. We were just talking before this call about independence. You see how much they grow in a matter of months and how independent they are and how happy they are walking in the door. I mean, there's no comparison to that. So of course, families are going to see that, feel that, and know it, and they're going to talk about it. So and you want to tell your friends, right? Because it's the coolest experience ever. So Montessori is pretty awesome.
Yeah, very well said. We talked a little bit already about the program terms. Matt, you said $250 paid after 90 days, essentially, right?
That's correct. Yep, $250 after 90 days.
And are you paying per new student or per family? Like if somebody has 2 children that they bring to the table, is that now $500?
Got it. That is a great point of clarification. I actually am paying per family.
Okay.
So, yeah, good question. And it's, how would I deal with that? If somebody really pushed me on that, I think probably the fair thing to do would be to pay per child. I don't like it to be like a head count almost, where it's like it kind of cheapens it. It's more like, hey, you've introduced us to a new relationship, and that family could have one child, could have 4 children. But right now it's per family.
And nobody's ever called you on that? That hasn't been an issue?
No, but that doesn't mean that people didn't feel that. They could have. Quite honestly, people are usually so happy to have this that they don't, they're not going to complain about it. So it's been nothing but positive from my perspective, the feedback that we've received.
And do you have any limitations or caps?
Limitations or caps? No, absolutely not. I mean, so again, because we put this barrier into the program where it's, well, they have to be enrolled and have been paying tuition for 3 months. Somebody could apply. They could have 15 people that apply. It really matters about when they're getting in and when we're starting that family. So that would help with the limitation and cap process. Because if it was just like, oh, for every app you send in, you get $50. That would be, I would definitely want to know that we were capping it in some way. But quite honestly, if they could send us 10 people, that's amazing, right? I'm not going to complain about that at all. I'm going to take that every day of the week.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. When I was researching this topic in preparation for this call, I noticed that some schools, and not even necessarily Montessori schools, just some private schools, they pay by the lead, they pay by the admission. And I think your model is far more effective, but I'd like to, just curious as to whether or not you tried that, what your thoughts are on it.
I have not tried that. And I don't think that would work for something like Montessori. Listen, we are not the right school for a lot of families. And it's also something where I want to make sure that that we are still finding mission appropriate families who are going to support what we do. And if it's just by lead, if it's just by, oh, this person's interested in the school, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that I'm interested in them, quite honestly, because one of the fastest ways to ruin your community is to just kind of let anybody into the school and not really drive home the tenets of what we are trying to do in a Montessori environment. So that would not work from my perspective as a Montessorian.
That's great feedback. And pardon me if I'm diving into the nuances of the legalese, but I think it's important to have some of the specifics ironed out when with a program like this. If someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I actually referred Melissa to the school, and
Yep.
her and her children have been enrolled for a month," what do you do? Is there a retroactive application, or is that kind of, sorry, they didn't put you down on the app?
That's happened before. And normally, if the parent has been here for a while, long-term parent, I'll give it to them
Okay.
because I think that it's worth, again, this if this parent's been here for 4 years and is going to be here for another 6 years, it is worth it to me in terms of deepening our relationship and making sure that they feel that we're fair. If this person is brand new and we don't have and maybe, or if this person, quite honestly, they have one child in the program and they're letting us know that they're not going to stay for the kindergarten year. I mean, all that stuff where I'm like, you don't really get us anyway. I'm not gonna give it to them. So it's really on a case by case basis about the depth of our relationship and the length of our relationship and what they bring to our community. One of the things that's important to note as well is that we do have a limitation on there, which I should have brought up, is that this can't be for direct family. So sometimes I'll have, oh, so my cousin's coming in, my niece. Those things start to get really, really muddy. It has to be somebody that's physically separate from your family. And I've never had anybody push that, but when you put that in the parameters up front, it does seem to preclude those issues.
That's a great exclusion. I totally see why you would have that too. Have you ever had two families fight over the same referral?
No, I actually haven't. Um, no, I haven't. And I don't necessarily know what I would do in that situation. I would probably just split it and give it to both of them. Um, Again, it's one of those things where it's like I'm not gonna step over dollars to pick up pennies, right? It's like it's in the grand scheme of things, is this relationship important to me with this family? That's my first level of evaluation in terms of how I'm going to respond to an exception request. And then from there, it's really important that I have a perception that I'm perceived as being fair, because when these things start to go awry, it's when it becomes, they're not honoring what they said they were going to do. So it's always something, number one, that I'm going to have an in-person conversation with somebody about. I'm not going to send them an email when I'm denying them something. I really want to explain to them so they really understand why they're not getting the tuition credit. Again, I've never had these conversations where it's like I really have to go and talk to somebody for a half hour about it. It's more an aside, but it's so much better to do in person than it is in an email, because an email seems so, I don't know, just anonymous and formulaic, and I really want them to understand why our policy is what it is.
Yeah, and that's so well said, Matt. I just kind of want to highlight that for a minute. And email does seem very anonymous, kind of, at arm's length, especially for an interaction like this. Um, so one thing that our listeners should be cognizant of is the referral program is going to take some working, some management. Do you have a sense as to how much time that costs you, let's say on a monthly basis, trying to manage something like that, you or your staff?
Less than a half an hour.
Really, in total?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Because most people are getting it, and meaning that they're getting the referral. Most people, the referral amount. So it's like I rarely have issues that come up with it. Most people are really excited to get the referral. I'm happy to actually manage the process of approval, like, hey, letting you know you're getting your tuition credit next month. That in an email is 100% fine, right? Because it's transactional. It's something that we're just notifying you, and they're happy to get it. When I have to have a difficult conversation about, oh, you're not getting this, oh, here's why, oh, this doesn't qualify, those are the ones I want to have in person. So in sum, I mean, it takes me less than a half an hour a month to deal with referrals, because it's basically just tracking them from spreadsheets and making sure that they're showing up in the right place on their accounts.
That's true. That's actually kind of the perfect segue too, is tracking your referrals. How do you do it now?
So right now, we use our CRM as a basic level. Again, not the way in which I want to be able to use it, but we're manually going in and adding a note when somebody on their application says they've been referred by somebody, so that when that application goes through and they, and they're placed, we have to set a calendar reminder to, hey, 3 months from now, is this person still enrolled? Great, we need to apply tuition credit and let them know. So it's a little bit, I wouldn't say that it's the most efficient way of doing it. And like I mentioned, I really want to improve that technologically moving forward, but it does work.
And what CRM are you using, Matt?
We are using really a combination of things from MailChimp to Entreport. So Entreport is something that we are looking to use because all of our leads come through an Entreport right now, but it's not built out specifically for how we want to use it. As I've mentioned before on these calls, that really is a goal for us for the tail end of 2018. And, I'm speaking about automation and marketing at the AMI refresher course in February, so I got to get my game up so I can actually talk from from a point of knowing versus a point of kind of theory, which some of these things are right now.
Sure. And I'm actually curious, from the people that are on the live call, do you have a referral program in place at your school? If so, if you wouldn't mind, chat in. Let us know what the referral program is, what you're paying if it's a tuition credit, or what the incentive is otherwise, and any terms that you have, anything specifically that you think would benefit our listeners. I really like Matt's, hey, family doesn't necessarily apply and we only pay out after 90 days, because those are obviously lessons that you learned over time. I bet you the folks on this call probably have a couple little gems themselves.
I would agree with that. And here's the thing, I'd actually be curious as to why people don't have a referral program as well. Meaning, what is the barrier that you feel to that? Do you feel like it's too focused on money? Do you feel like you can't manage that process? What is the reason why you don't have one?
Yeah, great questions.
I have a thought as we're waiting to see if some people chat in. So my experience with parents, both from a guide and being a parent, and conversations outside of school and at events and such, just like we have a hard time talking about Montessori, they have a hard time talking about it. So I wonder if we included something in a welcome packet for new families, or even just like a reoccurring thing, a sheet, like a one sheeter document that says, some specifics about Montessori. So kind of like an elevator speech, or things that we want them to be able to articulate well to others. Matt, do you have something like that? Or what do you think about that idea?
I don't. I think it's a great idea because, again, if we can, I mean, you're basically giving people talking points,
Right,
for how you want them to spread the word. And if you leave it up to them, even if they've been through, a new family induction course or a kind of a Montessori 101, they're still not going to have those quick sound bites that you want to transmit out into their ecosystem, for lack of a better word. So there've been a lot of people that have tried to do this with Montessori elevator speeches. I think that instead of it being about Montessori, it actually should be about your school. Because, again, there are so many different types of Montessori schools. Some are large, some are urban, some are rural, some are very small. And yes, we're all going to have the same pedagogical bent, most of us. We're still going to be have the same goals for children, but the way in which we do it and the experience that children have and that families have in your community are going to be slightly different depending on your community. So we're really trying to drill down what the talking points are for your Montessori school, not necessarily for Montessori. I think is a great idea.
Yeah. And it could have a dual purpose too, the purpose of helping this family truly internalize and understand, because it's a process.
Correct.
And being able to take that and articulate it to your buddies, which would then tie into, a referral program.
Totally agree.
Cool.
It would be great for us to create a one-page infographic at NITO, and we could house that in our resources area, and schools could download it, customize it, of course, to their school, and then use it, give it to their parents. I think that's brilliant.
Right, like a template.
I love that. Deneen, is that something you and I could create together? Would you feel comfortable doing that?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm making a note. I think that's genius. Let's talk about marketing the program.
Well, we do have some input, some from
Kim. Oh, we do. I glazed right over it.
Yep. Do you want me to read it or do you want to do it?
Yeah, no, take it and run, please.
Okay. So Kim asked, do you give your staff any kind of incentive for referrals?
Great question.
I don't. That gets a little bit too insular, meaning if we have staff that aren't referring our program as it is now, we got a bigger problem. So it's kind of like there needs to be a certain point about that. I mean, they are still employees and they are still part of our organization, and they should be working for the benefit of our school just in general. So no, I don't.
I also think they're great, great people to truly know which families are mission appropriate. To really
Absolutely.
be in those conversations and understand if Montessori is right for your family or not.
Interestingly enough, I have given referral credits, especially when the labor market's really tight, for new employees to refer other employees to our school. Unemployment in California right now, especially in this area, is hovering around between 3.5% and 4%. So when you're looking to hire a new assistant for your primary classroom, it's very difficult. So I have given a referral for friends of staff members, which has been relatively effective, actually.
That's interesting. And that's really smart, especially because you don't have Montessori around you for miles.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and again, this is really rarely for Montessori guides, right? This is usually for a classroom assistant, and that's a whole other segment of the population. They have to have a certain number of early childhood education credits. They have to be able to have had experience working in a licensed preschool. Again, these are California regulations, so it may be different for people on the phone. But what I'm saying is that, if I have an assistant in a primary classroom who's maybe going to school part-time for early childhood education, she may know some other people who she likes who would be good fits for us, whether that's as a substitute or a part-time or full-time employee. So that has worked, and we've given $100 per person that we've hired on. It's helped.
Yeah.
Melissa has some input. She said, we do not have a referral program because we're a smaller school and feel like it's too much to manage at this time, but interested in this and wondered if you advertise the referral program on your website or on Facebook.
So we don't advertise it on our website. This is really something that we're doing through email because, again, it's not something I want to put out there from from a perspective to everybody who's not even members of our school yet. But it's something that I want to definitely do when we have somebody that's new. I want to give them an email series that's going to remind them a lot about how to refer people to our school and what they receive. Sorry, I'm trying to turn off this notification here. It's driving me crazy. It's probably why I sound distracted.
Camille chatted in, we don't have a referral program. It's been discussed, but we've never implemented it. And don't worry about being late, Camille. It's okay. We're happy to have you.
And just to catch up, Camille, Matt does a $250 tuition credit paid out at the beginning of the 4th month after someone has been enrolled. How did I do there, Matt?
Sounds exactly what we do.
Yeah. Matt, how do you market the program? How do you get the word out there that you actually do this?
So again, that's something that I like to do in emails. And at the bottom of every email that we do, meaning that are going out to parents, I like to have some standard things. I've really started to implement this more as I've got my systems in place digitally. So like there are a lot of common questions that people are going to have, that parents are going to want. They need a receipt. They want to change their length of day for their child in primary, right? They want to go from extended care back to class day, whatever they want to do. They need to give notice that they're leaving potentially. I like to put all these links in the bottom of every email that goes out. So it's just kind of like a self-service tab. This is another great place to put a self-service link about, hey, do you know anybody that's interested in our school? You can earn a $250 tuition credit. Click here. And then that takes them to the information about how to do that. So again, it's more of a repetition thing, and doing that in just as kind of as a standard in your emails. It's a standard footer, for lack of a better word, that people will find that in their messages that go out.
I just want to say that we have a course in the members area on WhyStamp. And this is a absolutely free service that allows you to design a really professional email signature. And you can include all the elements Matt referenced. You can also include calls to action to your social profiles. And then it's a very easy copy and paste for most email tools. You just dump it in your email sig, and now you have that forever, and you don't have to mess around with formatting it yourself. And there's a lot of really fun templates they have too, and you can include images and headshots and logos, and that's available to our members in the course section. So please check that out.
Awesome.
Do you make this a point to kind of go over with your guides and let them know the program is here and make reminders, or is that not really the conduit through which most of these come from?
For me, it's not really the conduit. I have not made that a point with guides.
And Deneen, as a guide, was this ever on your radar really? Like, how cognizant of you, like the quote unquote sales process, if you guys will forgive the term?
No, it wasn't. But it also, I mean, I was kind of doing it anyway. So to Matt's point, as an employee of the school and a believer in what I do every day, I'm supporting that program already. I mean, it might be nice to be aware of it, and so I can mention it, as I have a lot of interaction with parents. But yeah.
Awesome. Some questions. What's a good tuition credit range? Matt, you're a larger school. Do you think 250 is on the high side, or do you think that could be good for just about everybody?
So for me, I based it on roughly a 25% tuition credit for what an average monthly cost would be. I probably should increase it at this point, because I think back when I started it, I was looking at, listen, our average tuition ranging from anybody from a half day all the way up to full day extended care would be $1,000. It's more than that at this point, but I did it internally about I'm willing to pay 25% of somebody's tuition for that first month, which was $250. So for me, that was the metric that I used. And it seemed reasonable. Again, it's really going to depend on your budgets and what you're spending for advertising right now anyway. It was, again, cheaper for us to do it this way than it was to get somebody from our outbound advertising cost.
And you've already answered the question when the credit should be applied, and I think you've given good context there. When you first started, were you applying the credit much sooner? Did you learn some hard lessons that gave you the 90-day rule?
No, I don't think I did. I was, I was probably smart on that one from the beginning.
Good for you. I could see myself making some mistakes, making it rain with tuition credits before they all came to fruition.
Right.
And then one of the programs that I saw, again, as I was doing some research on the topic, some schools have a credit in both directions. You get a credit for referring, and the family that you referred gets a credit kind of as an incentive that you get to offer. You see this with SaaS products a lot too. Just curious as to your impression of that.
Yeah, actually, I have done that in the past. I'm not doing that now, but we used to give a $50 off the application fee as well for the family. It started to feel a little bit too penny saver coupon mode, for lack of a better word. Listen, these people are already motivated to apply, and I actually like the fact that I think of Montessori as a high value proposition, kind of like you're looking at. I don't think that Apple would necessarily have a $50 off coupon for anything like this. So that's the way that I thought about it. It kind of cheapened, I think, what I felt we were doing from a new parents' perspective. From our existing parents, it's more of a longevity reward, right? It's more of a and there's lots of the different types of products and services that'll have these reward systems built in for people that are here for a long period of time. That's the way that I look at this. But for new families, I felt that it kind of cheapened the experience, and so I didn't choose to do that after the first incantation.
Great context. Deneen, what questions would you have or comments about just tuition credits in general?
I don't know if I mean, I love the idea. I think it's great incentive. I know I had mentioned before this call, I'm curious if there's anybody that has ideas for other incentives that aren't necessarily credits or monetary incentives. And I don't know if it exists, but it'd be interesting to think about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great question for our listeners. If you have any other ideas, we'd love to hear them. And in the interim, Melissa has a question. She says, do you ask how someone heard of you on your website or the application?
Yes, yes, we do. So on our application, which is an online form to fill out, it asks them how they heard about us, and I have some pre-populated boxes available for them to choose, which would be Google search, Facebook ad, postcard, billboard, and then there's another one that says referral. And when they click referral, there's a box that opens up underneath that says, who were you referred by? Sometimes I do get people that don't enter the who, like they'll just say that I was referred by somebody, and that's fine. That basically means I can't track that process and give people a tuition credit. But most people, especially people that are close friends, I find that this is much more common. Like, oh, these people are close friends. They spend a lot of time together. They're definitely going to list the name of that person. So it's asked on the application. It is not asked throughout the admissions process because, quite honestly, for most people, I'm already tracking them anyway through the digital marketing efforts, so I know where they're coming from.
Great answer. It looks like Camille has a question as well. Have you ever had a situation where more than one family wants credit for referral?
Awesome. I think you asked that question before we went live. No, I haven't. And quite honestly, if I did, I would either split it or I would give it to both of them. Again, what we're looking at really is something that's nominal. We're not going to, it is not worth it in the grand scheme of things to squabble over these types of things, because ideally this family is going to spend $100,000 with your school over the course of 5, 7, 10 years, depending on how old the child is and depending on how long they stay. Like, this is a long-term relationship. And if you can look at it from the standpoint of this space is going to be, this space which would otherwise go unfilled, is going to generate this revenue for me. It's a no-brainer. Of course, I pay $500 for it. Yeah, I would. I'd pay $250 and to each family. And the cost of actually having that bad blood in your community about it not being fair is not worth it. So it's never come up for me. And if it did, I would probably either split the referral and give half and half, or I would just pay them for both. But it's really dictated by what the person enters on the application. Meaning, if they enter somebody's name and then one of their other friends say, but hey, I talked to them about it too. Well, I get it, but this is what they entered on the application. So it's a little bit of a gray area. When all things come out, I really want to make sure that everybody feels like the process was fair. So I'm willing to pay more money in that situation.
So I think I might have an idea that is not monetary, if you don't mind me talking about that. What if schools or somebody at the school gave them like a thank you packet and sent it to their home? So maybe a plant, or maybe a little like Montessori gift package. And I'm thinking, maybe even like a little Montessori material that you can do or have at home, which would be kind of cool.
Sure. I think that's a great thank you to have in general for all sorts of things that happen at your school. Mm-hmm. What I don't think that people are going to do is act based upon that. And I don't know how you would promote that, meaning the tuition credit is something that's, it's a little bit sexy in terms of like, hey, there's $250 that you can do just by talking to your coworker. That's a motivator to action. Mm-hmm. So I love the idea as a thank you actually in addition to it. I don't know if a plant is going to get somebody to take action to refer.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Come on, plants are cool.
They're totally cool. I'm just saying that I don't know if it moves the needle in the same way, but I could be wrong.
Well, fair enough. I don't think you're wrong at all, but I do think to Deneen's point, I think, okay, so to Matt's point, the catalyst is probably going to be the money. But what's really interesting is people aren't going to remember the money as long as they're going to remember the plant. So they're more likely to act based off of the tuition credit, but then, the plant sticks around or the gift basket's there, or, the resources you send them home with, they just have forever. And that's a constant reminder of kind of like the goodwill and relationship building that you've done. So it might make sense to kind of bookend the give. So, you have the front end give, which is the tuition credit, and then you have the back end give, which is this really cool gift.
Correct. I think they can definitely work in tandem.
What questions do our listeners have? Those of you that show up live, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I think you add so much to these calls. You give us context we wouldn't have otherwise, and there's just a whole new layer of value that you provide. So we'd love for you to, take advantage of having two of the greatest minds in the Montessori space, and let us know what questions you have, struggles you're running into. Of course, the topic today is about referral credits, but we don't have to stay there. We can always dive a little bit deeper or get tangential too. I think would be very appropriate for these calls. So if you have any questions or anything you want to discuss, please drop them into the chat pane on the right hand side. And while you're doing that, I want to say that this is the last topic on our growing admissions category, and we'll be moving into more of kind of an administrative category and talking about some of the software we use and how we use it. So in the weeks to come, expect this to get maybe a little technical and kind of heady, but hopefully in a way that provides immense amounts of value, because these tools and these applications can do a lot to help make your life easier and make the school more efficient and all that fun stuff. Anything to add there, Matt or Deneen?
I don't. Deneen?
No.
I was just out of stuff to say, so I wanted to.
No, but this has been a really great discussion. I've enjoyed it. Good idea.
Yeah, I have too. We've got a lot of really good input too. And this was a relatively fast call. We've got some time for Q&A if we wanted to dive into that. And if not, we can always sign off early, but I don't want to cut anybody off if they're just mid-typing. So we'll hang tight, I think, for another minute or two to see if there are any more questions. And I think it's safe to call it. I, again, appreciate everybody being here. Just as a reminder, we do these live coaching calls every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. I believe that's 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And we will be posting the recordings on the website. In case you don't know, the coaching call recordings are in the Start Here section. So when you sign into the Needle Marketing members area and you go to the Start Here menu item, all of the recordings exist under the Montessori Marketing Method. And they're in order, actually, so you can see each one of the lessons in the order that we recorded them. If we ever decide to do the live office hours again, which is something that we did recently, we're going to log those under the forum, under office hours. So the office hours, which are just kind of open forum, anybody asking any question they want to ask, they get logged under the forum. And then the coaching calls, because we're going kind of alongside this Montessori Marketing Method narrative, they'll get logged here. And if you have any questions about that, you can, of course, always ask us via live chat. Otherwise, thankful to everyone for being here, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Bye.